Welcome to Midway Wool. The stitch I'm going to demonstrate for you today is called a bullion or a bullion knot. It's a great outline stitch. It can be used in many different ways. It's a wrapped stitch, and this is our little bullion sample. You can make them curved. You can make them even straighter than this. You can make little loops out of them, but a bullion is called a wrapped stitch. And when you're choosing a needle for a wrapped stitch, you need to choose either a milliner's needle, which is a long needle with the eye being the same size as the shaft of the needle, or there is a specialty needle that is called a bullion knot needle that I'm going to use today. The construction is a little bit different. It has an elongated eye on it, but it makes absolutely beautiful bullion knots. The thread I'm going to use is called Silken Pearl. It's from the Thread Gatherer. It is a twisted number 5 thread that is similar to a pearl cotton, but it's made out of silk instead. And it's absolutely a joy to work with when you're doing bullions.
Does Midway Wool carry that?
Midway Wool carries a great selection of Silken Pearl and other Thread Gatherer threads. They're beautiful, beautiful threads. They're hand dyed. They have a lot of color variation. This particular one is called Peacock, and yes, Midway Wool carries a great selection of the Silken Pearl. I'm right-handed, so I'm going to show you right-handed. I'm also going to show you how to do a bullion a little different way than you might see in a stitching book. And I'll explain why I'm going to do it this way when I get one finished for you. So, bullion knot. You're going to be working on the outside of your applique piece, so you're coming up through the background, right on the edge of the applique piece. Whenever you're outlining something, you're going to be in the background, not on top of the applique piece. So I have my thread up. I'm going to take a little 1/4 inch stitch in the background and have the needle come out right next to that emerging thread. I'm not going to bring my needle all the way through. This is where the wraps come in. I'm going to wrap with about a 1/4 inch stitch. I'm going to wrap 8 times. You can wrap with either your right or left hand. I wrap with my left hand even though I'm a right-handed stitcher. I hold on to my needle with my right hand and wrap with my left. It doesn't matter, you can do it either way. I'm going to wrap clockwise behind that needle. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I want my wraps to be uniform in their tightness. I want them to be stacked on top of each other. I don't want to overlap any of the wraps. I don't want to pull it so tight that it strangles the needle, but I don't want the wraps loose. So once I have my 8 wraps on, I'm going to hold on to those wraps between my index finger and my thumb with my left hand, and I'm going to pull the thread through. I want to hold on to those wraps until the thread is pulled all the way through, and then I'm going to give it a little tug. And what that does is it makes sure that those wraps are all nice and snug. Then, using my thumb, I want to hold on to the wraps and pull the thread down. So you can see that I have this little fun little loop that's a bullion knot. Now I'm going to take my needle to the back right at the end of that bullion. Now if you're looking in a stitching book, and see how you get a little curve, if you wanted even more of a curve than that, add another wrap or 2. If you want it flatter, reduce the number of wraps by 1 or 2. But that just gives it just a nice little curve. If you were looking at a stitching book, it would likely tell you to come above that bullion knot and bring your thread through. I'm going to go below the bullion knot that I just made. I'm going to not come up in the same hole, but I'm just going to do just a tiny bit below that bullion knot that I made. Now I'm going to make another one. I'm going to come 1/4 of an inch, bring my needle up right next to that emerging thread. I'm going to wrap 8 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Push those little wraps together, hold on to them, pull your needle through, give it a little tug, then hold on to it with your thumbnail, and you have another lovely little bullion. Take your thread to the back. The reason that I go down rather than up is that if I went up from this point, from this first bullion I made, and I went up, I would be bringing my needle up right there. That's a 1/2 of an inch of thread that I am going to waste by bringing it up here, where when I finished my first one, then came up just right below it, it's no thread at all that you have lost. So if you were going to go all the way around this circle with bullions, you'd probably do a good 20 or so. You would lose almost a foot of thread. Silk and pearl is an expensive thread. It's absolutely worth it because it makes beautiful bullions and other stitches. But why waste all of that thread by going forward rather than down? So I'm going to do one more. So I'm bringing my needle up. I'm going to take a little stitch, not bringing your needle all the way through. I'm going to wrap 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm going to do 2 or 3 more wraps, 3 more wraps, and then you can see how it curves a little bit more. Hold on to those wraps. Try not to knot your thread. Pull it through, give it a little tug, bring it down with your thumbnail, and now take your thread to the back. And if you look at that, I have a little bit more of a curve than I did with the others, simply because I added 3 more wraps. Then when you finish, just go to the back, either knot or take 3 little stitches into your background, and those are your bullions or bullion knots. Beautiful, especially made with the thread gatherer silk and pearl.